Hi guys, it's Gracie and Scott from Small Worlds Big Adventures, and we have some more Reddit stories for you today. So if you like a little bit of drama with your gameplay, why don't you go ahead and roll for initiative, because we're starting now.
Right. This story is from RPG Horror Stories from GC1RPG. The story. I'll call him Samurai, because that's what he kept playing, or trying to play, and always with a lawful neutral alignment, only being held by his favorite Bushido, which changed to fit his whims. This spanned a couple of different fantasy games and tables, and at any time his character would die, he'd just replace it with a very similar character. This was tolerated because he was a rising star in the gaming club, and some of the more antagonistic DMs found his antics hilarious. He usually min-maxed to make his character pretty powerful, and thus unable to be successfully challenged one-on-one, which his personal code also required. He had a very long list of situations or responses that he claimed would require him to resort to immediate violence. The party pretty much had to bow to him at least once when he entered a scene, which was used as a gotcha moment at one table to kill a PC. Disagreeing or correcting any of his statements, no matter how factually wrong they were, he would frequently make incorrect statements to bait people into correcting him, thus allowing him to kill them. Holding him to any moral, ethical, or law not part of his personal Bushido code, he was immune to contracts, local laws, and common sense. Had to kill the entire party if they ever ran from combat, were defeated in combat, or didn't choose combat when it was available. Conclusion, he only got away with this when the reigning DMs of the club moved on and newer DMs were far less old school, but allowing overpowered characters, lame antics, and PvP. He still bragged for a while after that about how he killed so-and-so's character, usually in their face, while observing a gaming table, which were otherwise public. Too long, didn't read. A somewhat edgy player gets obsessed with playing a lawful neutral samurai who resorts to automatic violence and blames it on Bushido.
Yep.
Thoughts?
We included the story mostly to basically just say this whole thing is red flag. Don't play with a player like that. Don't play at a table that allows a player playing like that. Is the short answer. All of that was unacceptable.
Oh yeah.
That a gaming community allowed that for what sounds like for so long, or group, also unacceptable. It'd be hard pressed to stay playing in a group of gamers that would allow an individual, much less it sounds like maybe more than that in that type of play.
Well, and I think it speaks to the toxicity of the gaming group, community, or whatever, that like the experienced DMs that kind of led it and whatnot thought this was hilarious. Like, people pour their heart and souls into their characters and role playing and all that stuff, and to think that like the loss of that work and effort is hilarious.
Yeah,
I hate it.
It's hard to say because this is the only example that he gives from that gaming club, but I mean, it sounded like a toxic place.
Yeah,
would not stick around.
Me and Desmond will kind of like hit friction sometimes, not in game, but like he loves to min max a character. He loves to make the most powerful character in the world. I'm like, I think that's stupid and not practical. Like, how often would that happen in real life? I know it's fantasy life, but you know. And so like just the fact that he was so prone to min-maxing his characters, and that was such like he built himself so that like he had to be challenged one-on-one and min-maxed it so he couldn't lose. Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. Unacceptable. That's the long and short of it. Don't play with people like that. Don't play in groups that allow people playing like that is my advice. Yeah, if you're only a player, it can be hard to find a group, but like you're almost better off not playing than playing in a group like that, in my opinion.
Well, and we've played with somebody who like played with a toxic group before, and like it kind of killed her joy for the game for a long time.
Yeah.
And then she joined us. Clearly, we're flawless.
That's right, flawless.
But like being around toxic people, regardless of the community, can kill your joy and love for something.
Yeah.
And while it may suck to lose that in the moment, it's just best to take a step back and find a better community.
Yeah, no, fully agree.
Yeah. You could look at online gaming.
Yep.
You could start your own gaming community.
Yep.
I'm sure there was more than just one displeasured person that probably would have been happy to jump ship if there was more.
Yeah, without further description of what that club was, it's a little hard to say, but it just split off players who aren't that bad and have somebody be a DM and do your own thing, either in the club or outside it, would be my suggestion.
I am loving this comment from but ironically. I'm sorry, what? Why does your D&D group have rising stars in the first place? It's like having a rising star in a book circle. Or a wine tasting club or a volunteering group. Like the very idea that somebody could be competitively good at it in the first place is absurd, much less that they deserve special treatment for doing so.
I mean, yes, it's a valid comment, but also like there are people that are like that. Think of the wine tasting on the train episode from Bob's Burgers and the guy that they end up sitting with.
Oh, he's awful.
That would be, if that was a regularly like meeting group, that would be how some people would probably describe the wine snob.
Oh, for sure.
He's a rising star in this wine tasting group. Because they just have a personality that just takes over everything around them.
Mm-hmm. And like it's personality that charms most or some at the expense of others. Because how do they prove they're the best? By killing these other characters, by shaming Bob for not knowing wine.
Yeah, or in not even just in a gaming thing, but watch out for people like that who the people that are charming are the people that are in charge.
Yes.
It's the DMs that are allowing this to happen. And that's what's happening there. Now maybe other people also find their antics funny, and again, that's why I said I just wouldn't play with groups like that. But if the toxic person is charming the people in charge, then it's just going to make everything toxic.
100%. But if you want to hear more about how great a gamekeeper can be, or healthy gaming community tactics, you can always hang around with us. Scott, on occasion, will do a gamekeeper tips video. So if you want to learn to become a gamekeeper, he gives great advice on that.
Maybe.
And if you have a similar horror story, go ahead and drop it below. We want to learn from everyone's unfortunate experiences. Yep. All right, so this story is from r/RPG Horror Stories, OK Mariner 2257. Possible horror story in the making, or already one? I don't know. We haven't even started playing yet. Well, that's concerning. I don't know where this is going, but you've posted to Reddit before you guys have played. Okay. Yeah. But I feel like I should post this because I can just hear alarm bells ringing in the distance. I invited 4 of my friends to play D&D. I got the idea in the first place to run my school's D&D club as an homage to 2 of my favorite teachers that ran the original and left, and 2, my little sister runs the middle school D&D club and helped get me into it when I pitched a homebrew campaign. How cute is that? I've never played D&D before. My family was using a starter kit to understand how it worked, but I didn't play because I was pissed at my sister before playing and it fell asleep. But that's way too off topic. All my friends agreed, and I set off to buy a starter set. Getting it actually delivered because my dad forgot to buy it twice. I handed him a $20 and it cost $15 for everything. The day I got it, I had just left my technical school back to my high school. I was blown up on the club Discord with a ton of notification showing new people joined. I had thought that we all agreed that we were going to stay with 6 people. I had already invited and said they wanted to play. That makes sense. My friend V confirmed that that's what we had agreed to. I then expressed that was a ton of people and was brushed off and left confused and concerned. I complained to my friends about this, and they just said to tell him not to invite anyone else because 15 plus is an insane number already. I did what was suggested, leading into the screenshots I posted along with this. I was then told by this other guy, we'll call him D, that we'd be using D&D Beyond. I was okay with that, despite how I wanted to do it traditionally, but wasn't entirely opposed to it. I was then told by D and V that D was the new DM, and I was going to be co-DM, and player character until his campaign is over, and I already put in some game rules, one of which he overruled. The rule in question? No murder hoboing. Seemed pretty fair, I'd say, but in his message he said he had allowed it so that he could show me how to deal with toxic players like that in certain scenarios. Cool! But I made that because I don't want to go through stupid loopholes for stupid people like that. So I relented by saying, okay, cool, with my fire emojis, because I don't want to sound passive aggressive. But I won't lie, I'm pissed. I then confronted V, asking not to add any more people when it would be my turn. I'd get overwhelmed. He stated he wanted everyone to be included and have fun. Okay, cool, I guess. But upon hearing the number, a good couple people left, more to do with work than anything, since they decided to schedule our meets after school twice a month on Fridays, specifically for V. But since I had bought the starter with my money, I was saving it to take my girl to prom. I felt like I had wasted it entirely. But I re-invited the original 4 plus one other to do it during 7th hour, if the plus one could make it, so I could learn D&D via the set as my younger sister suggested. She had actually gotten upset when I told her the situation, saying that what they did takes the fun out of being a DM. But anyways, I want to know how I should have handled the situation further. I still want to play with my friends in the big-ass campaign, but as well learn on my own way. Is there anything I should say more? I feel like the big-ass campaign will turn sour incredibly quickly, which is the main reason I make this. Deeply appreciate concerns and comments. Thank you. What are your thoughts?
This is an interesting story because I feel like ultimately they've essentially navigated their way through this. They took what sounds like their original 4, I suspect minus V, to create their own game in 7th hour.
Yep.
And my suggestion would be drop out of the the group that unfortunately they created. First time, like, there's just so much wrong here is kind of the unfortunate thing. I think they're navigating this fairly decently for what they have. They even, I'm kind of impressed with things like, it feels like they've done a decent amount of research about talking about even like murder hoboing and stuff like that ahead of time, so that I don't think they have. I think they will do great with a small group and really enjoy playing the game. They had, unfortunately, somebody who got too excited and essentially took over. 15 players for your game club is probably fine if that's split into 3 different campaign groups. That doesn't sound like what V&D want to do. They want to run one game with minimum 11 players, and that is lunacy.
Yeah.
That will be a shit show. That first game will be terrible. Like, no doubt in my mind. 8 players is hard to manage. Well, we had one earlier where they were talking about they had 9 players, and that is super difficult. 15 would be. I don't think you'd understand how the game works if you had 15 players. Plus, if it's a school group, a lot of times they don't have a ton of time to play.
No.
Any time of combat is going to be multiple sessions long.
Yeah.
It just, that's crazy. When you're a DM, it can be stressful, but unfortunately, you're in charge.
Yeah.
A lot of times, player management comes down to you. If there are issues, you're kind of the one called on to resolve it. Now, that won't be the case for every group, but a lot of times it will be essentially your responsibility or your becomes your problem, unfortunately. And it's a thing you kind of have to learn to navigate and stuff. And you got to learn when to say no, and you got to learn, you got to learn your limits and kind of figure out like your players' limits, especially for like what can go into a game. That's kind of separate from this, but it kind of goes along with like you basically should have told D in the first place. No, we're going to keep my campaign that I am about to run at 5 people.
Yeah.
We can invite more people to the group, and we can split into 2 different groups, and that's fine. But I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And that can be hard, especially when you're in high school, or especially if you've not had to navigate essentially being in charge of a group before. I think it's smart for them to split off and do their own thing, as I said. I like that the little sister goes, that's just crazy. 15 people is insanity.
Can you talk about how cute she is?
She's very, very...
She's like, we're doing this as a family. I'm starting my own middle school group. And then he's like going to her and for advice and listening. Yeah, I love it.
No, it's great. They sound so super wholesome.
Yes. Can we play with that?
Yeah, sure. I love all that. It's hopefully these people don't kind of, and we've discussed it before, drain your joy of playing the game, especially before you even started. That would be unfortunate because it sounds like you're throwing yourself in real good, and that they will be an excellent DM given some experience and some time. The starter set is a great place to start. You don't need D&D Beyond to do your first couple of adventures and stuff like that. You don't need anything more complicated than that box set. You really don't. Honestly, it's a pretty good starting spot for new DMs to go with. But yeah, it sounds like you had a couple of just, I don't know, outsized personalities that essentially wanted to make it all about them and their spot and literally took over your game.
Yeah.
Is what it sounded like they're happening. They'll show you the ropes and show you how to deal with murder hobos. I have no confidence that they know how to deal with murder hobos. Honestly, there's not much you can do.
He sounds like a DM who loves murder hobos.
It more sounds like that than anything. It looks at it as a challenge, and that's not great.
I have all these scenarios set up.
Yep.
So that murder hoboing can happen.
That's what happens is you kill the murder hobo's character, and then they make another murder hobo character. That doesn't solve that problem, unfortunately. You either run a campaign that's designed around being murder hobos and enjoy that, which is usually like just a standard like dungeon crawl, or your bandits or something like that, or you find players who don't do that.
Yeah,
is unfortunately basically the answer there. But yeah, I honestly think they're on their way of kind of navigating their issues at any rate pretty well by just splitting off and doing their own thing. And I would, if they were asking me for advice, my advice would be don't play with the bigger group. Probably, that's not going to be fun. That's going to end in disaster.
Yeah. I'm really proud of how they navigated it, in the sense of they could have really pushed back against their friends, which is a really awkward thing in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
could have caused this big conflict and all that stuff. But instead they were just kind of thumbs up, and then took the time and scheduled what they intended to do anyways. Which I think shows the level of maturity that definitely D&V do not have.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I do wonder though, also you do start to need to learn to push back on people like this. And then pushback isn't necessarily, no, these people aren't being invited to this school.
Sure.
But saying, hey, I don't think I'm interested in doing this, I think would be appropriate enough.
For sure.
For that situation. I'm going to move on and do something else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and he even did push back against his friend V. He's can we stop inviting people? He just got a little steamrolled, but yeah, he's a baby.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure if he had ever had questions that you'd be happy to answer them for him.
Sure.
Again, OK Mariner 2257.
Sure.
Well, that is our final story for the day. A lot of interesting situations out there. I think the book.
These are RPG horror stories, so.
True. I think the real lesson of today is just find community in the games you love that lift you up and don't tear you down.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
A good moral.
Yeah, like don't let people walk over you. Don't play in groups that are toxic. Like find space where you're lifted up.
Learn to read red flags and avoid them.
Oh
And
my
that's good advice in
Everything.
lots of stuff you're going to do. But yeah.
To listen to more D&D horror stories, gaming topics, Reddit stories in general that have to do with gaming, you can go ahead and subscribe. If you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified the next time we upload. If you have questions for our excellent resident DM, Scott, you can drop them below and he will be happy to answer them.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's nothing else,
Hit that like button. That really helps a lot.
oh, that does help a lot. But then if there's nothing else,
We'll see you next time.
love it.